Game 5 features an unusual lineup of survivors: Baden, Patricia Dorval, Edgar Valden, Vera Nair, and Kevin Ayuso, with Chang as the designated hunter. If you're wondering why there are 5 survivors instead of the usual 4, well, same here. It's a mystery I still haven't fully figured out. Based on Game 9 and the general backstory of Identity V, it's implied that matches are supposed to have 4 survivors. But don't worry, by the time Game 5 starts, the number will drop to 4. Now, let's talk about Game 5. A key theme here is that every survivor carries sins, whether it is caused by themselves or by someone related to them. And although it seems that these people came to the manor for different purposes, but the major force that driven this game is their past sins themselves, which they eventually need to confront. How so? Let's unravel it all, starting with their backstories. Before we dive in though, a quick note. Everything I'm sharing is based on my understanding of the lore, pieced together from in-game files, and insights from lore experts. Since NetEase hasn't officially confirmed the full story, consider this a theory. A plausible one, but still a theory. This is your broadcaster Silmina, signing in. Many of you might already know Vera's backstory, but for those who don't, here's a recap. Vera Nair's real name was Chloe Nair. She was born in Grasse, France, which is well known as the perfume capital of the world. She had a twin sister named Vera Nair, and while they looked identical, their personalities couldn't have been more different. Vera was everything people admired: outgoing, charming, and stunningly beautiful. She was the kind of person everyone adored. Chloe, on the other hand, was her total opposite: shy, awkward, and painfully insecure. But Chloe had something special, a talent for creating perfumes that was unmatched. She loved experimenting with fragrance oils and creating unique blends, even if others thought her obsession was strange. Her father, in particular, didn't understand her passion and told her to stop being weird if she ever wanted her work to be appreciated. Vera, however, always believed in Chloe. She didn't just see her as a sister. She saw her as someone extraordinary. It is revealed that Vera thought Chloe's talent was the kind of gift people could only dream of, and she wanted the world to recognize it too. Determined to help her sister, Vera opened a perfume shop featuring Chloe's creations. With Chloe's remarkable fragrances and Vera's natural charm running the business, the shop became an instant success, even making it into the newspapers. But as the shop thrived, Chloe's insecurities grew. Chloe couldn't ignore how Vera got all the attention while she stayed behind the scenes. People praised Vera's elegance and success, but no one even mentioned the person who created the perfumes. Chloe began to believe that Vera was stealing her spotlight. The jealousy festered until it consumed her. One day, Chloe snapped. Driven by envy, she killed Vera. With her twin gone, Chloe took on Vera's identity. They looked exactly alike, so no one noticed the switch. To the outside world, Vera was still alive, still adored, while Chloe disappeared entirely. No one even seemed to care that Chloe was missing. For a while, things seemed to go well, but then Chloe, now living as Vera, found her sister's diary. In it, Vera had written about how deeply she believed in Chloe's talent. She had opened the shop not for herself, but to help Chloe's work get the recognition it deserved. Vera's only doubt was whether she'd done the right thing to support her sister. Reading those words broke Chloe. She realized she had killed the one person who had always been on her side, the only person who truly loved her. The guilt was unbearable, leaving Chloe in a pit of grief and regret. In her desperation to escape the pain, Chloe created a perfume called Euphoria. This fragrance had the power to erase memories, and Chloe used it on herself to try to forget what she had done. But the formula wasn't perfect. Still haunted by her past, Chloe came to the elitist manor in search of the ingredients she needed to perfect euphoria. From the perfumer's letters, it is implied that Chloe is weighed down by the memories she can never fully escape, and perfect euphoria is needed to erase that painful memories. Kevin's backstory is revealed through his in-game files, with additional details from the 2020 Christmas event and the 2021 Midsummer Reminiscing event. In my opinion, Kevin's story isn't just dark, it's heartbreakingly tragic. Kevin was born and raised in a remote village in the United States. His parents own a farm, and Kevin often helped by cleaning the sheds. The winters in his place were especially tough. The cold left the cattle hungry and restless, and one fateful winter, Kevin accidentally stepped on an ox's tail. Startled, the ox kicked him, leaving Kevin severely injured and lying in the snow. At what seemed like the end for Kevin, a young Native American girl named Angelina found him. Angelina, described as small but feisty, had gotten lost in the snow herself. She carried Kevin back to his house, saving his life. From that day on, the two became inseparable friends. The events suggest that Angelina couldn't return to her tribe, so it's possible she stayed with Kevin's family. Over time, Kevin and Angelina formed a close bond. According to the Midsummer Reminiscing event, Angelina would often climb onto Kevin's shoulders to pick fruit from the trees. Angelina shared stories about her culture with Kevin and even taught him how to use a lasso. She became like family, and Kevin's parents grew fond of her as well. They even treated her like their own daughter. During one Christmas, they baked gingerbread cookies shaped like Kevin and Angelina. Such is a sweet gesture that showed just how much they cared for her. But the peaceful days didn't last. In the Victorian-era United States, Native Americans were often hunted for bounties, which is a cruel and horrifying reality. Kevin's parents, tempted by greed, decided to turn Angelina in. One day, Kevin's parents said that they would return Angelina to her home. Before parting, Angelina gave Kevin her beloved lasso as a keepsake. Kevin thought they were taking her to a native reservation, but the truth was far darker. Instead of helping her, Kevin's parents killed Angelina for the bounty. Kevin eventually discovered what had happened. Devastated and consumed by guilt, he left home, unable to forgive his family or himself. Years later, Kevin was discovered lying in the snow, starving and freezing, by a Native American chief and his wife. They took him in, caring for him as one of their own. During this time, the chief noticed something familiar: the lasso Kevin carried. It belonged to his missing daughter, Angelina. Kevin had kept the lasso with him all these years. Whether it was because he deeply cared for Angelina, or because he couldn't let go of the guilt of what happened, or perhaps both. It was clear the lasso symbolized something he couldn't part with. The chief began to ask questions about Angelina, desperate for answers. Kevin, overwhelmed with guilt and unable to reveal the truth, lied. He told the chief that Angelina had run away years ago and that he hadn't seen her since that winter. The lie spared the chief's feelings but weighed heavily on Kevin's heart. Meanwhile, tensions between settlers and Native Americans continued to escalate. Kevin found himself caught in the middle, even accused of being a spy for the colonists, a claim he vehemently denied. The guilt of knowing what had truly happened to Angelina, combined with the growing unrest, became unbearable. Unable to cope any longer, Kevin made a difficult decision. He wrote a farewell letter to the chief, explaining his departure but leaving out the truth about Angelina. Along with the letter, he left a bag of coins, which is all he had, perhaps as a small gesture of gratitude and remorse. Then, he left the tribe, carrying his guilt and Angelina's lasso as he made his way to Europe. Eventually, Kevin found himself at the Oletis Manor. The reason he went here is more likely to make amend of his past, or seeking an escape from the pain and the memories that haunted him. Patricia's story might seem confusing, especially if you're not familiar with the history of slavery, 19th century America, or African and Haitian cultures. So, before diving into her lore, let's go over some history. We'll start with Haiti because it plays a key role in Patricia's background. Back in 1492, Haiti, then called Hispaniola, was discovered by Christopher Columbus and became a part of the Spanish kingdom. But in 1697, Spain ceded part of the island to France. The French turned the territory into a booming plantation economy, relying heavily on enslaved Africans. These enslaved Africans brought their spiritual practices with them, including voodoo. Voodoo is a belief system rooted in African traditions, where spirits, ancestors, and a creator god are honored through rituals, drumming, and ceremonies for healing and guidance. This spiritual system would eventually become deeply tied to Haitian culture. For over a century, the French used brutal methods to obtain enslaved African, whether through trade or outright kidnapping. Male slaves faced harsh labor, while women endured even worse, including sexual exploitation. Many enslaved women were forced to bear children, essentially creating a new generation of slaves. These horrors shaped the lives of the enslaved. In 1804, after a bloody revolution, Haiti became the first Black republic and the first country to abolish slavery. Its first emperor, Jean-Jacques Dessalines, also known as Jacques I, became a symbol of resistance. Jacques I, by the way, is mentioned in Patricia's deduction quests. Now, how does Haiti connect to Patricia's story since she's from New Orleans? Well, Patricia's mother was an enslaved woman who was shipped from Haiti to New Orleans and gave birth to Patricia along the way. We'll talk about this later. For now, let's talk about New Orleans, which is a city in Louisiana, the United States. Louisiana, where New Orleans is located, was once a French territory, just like Haiti. New Orleans was unique for its time. It was a melting pot of cultures, home to enslaved people and free Black residents, as well as other ethnics. Despite the racial divides of the South, the city fostered a rebellious spirit among its residents, especially as the movement to abolish slavery grew. This atmosphere of defiance and diversity shaped Patricia's story. Now let's talk about Patricia. Patricia's origin is rooted in tragedy. She was born during a journey from Haiti to New Orleans. Her mother, a Haitian slave, died during the trip, leaving Patricia to be abandoned in New Orleans by the ship's captain. Patricia was the result of her mother's exploitation by an unknown white man, making her of mixed race. A local voodoo practitioner named Mary found her and adopted her, naming her Patricia Dorval. Mary raised Patricia and taught her voodoo, believing Patricia was special because of her Haitian roots. In Mary's eyes, Patricia had a pure voodoo lineage and was destined to inherit Mary's role, which is likely as a spiritual leader. Patricia's biological mother's connection to Haiti, a place seen as the heart of voodoo, made her even more significant in Mary's eyes. Growing up in New Orleans likely fueled resentment in her heart, especially toward white people. Her adoptive mother, Mary, also likely influenced Patricia's views of race. In Patricia's second deduction quest, we see hints of her struggles with race and identity. Though, it is important to note that at this time, neither Patricia nor Mary knows that Patricia is of a mixed race. Since Patricia is black, both her and her adoptive mother thought that she came from black parents. Patricia worked hard to master voodoo, but she faced difficulties. At one point, she attempted to summon Damballa, a benevolent spirit in voodoo, but failed. Mary reassured her, saying she just needed more time to develop her abilities. As Patricia grew older, she sought answers. Why weren't her powers stronger? To find out, she traveled to Haiti, encouraged by Mary, who, in her deduction quest, still called Patricia as her pride. Once in Haiti, Patricia tried to summon Papa Legba, a spirit who acts as a gateway between the living and the dead. Her goal? To connect with her biological mother and uncover the truth about her powers. In voodoo, summoning a spirit can result in possession. The person possessed is seen as a vessel for the spirit and treated with respect. During the ritual, Patricia asked Papa Legba about her powers and heritage. What she discovered changed everything. The ritual revealed that Patricia was of mixed race, a heritage seen as a curse by the Haitian voodoo community. For them, voodoo was deeply tied to African identity, and white colonizers were viewed as enemies. Learning that Patricia had white ancestry made her an outcast in their eyes. The assistants helping with the ritual turned against her, rejecting her as cursed. This realization devastated Patricia, as shown in her later deduction quests. It's possible that news of her mixed heritage reached Mary back in New Orleans. When Patricia sought comfort from her adoptive mother, all she received was a cold response. She was a disgrace. Even so, Mary's feelings were conflicted. On one hand, Patricia's heritage was a source of shame. On the other hand, Patricia was still the daughter she had raised and loved. In the end, Mary gave Patricia cryptic advice. Listen to your heart, and a strange blessing, a monkey head. For your information, even though this monkey head creates psychological trauma among hunter mains, in voodoo, monkey heads are used in rituals for healing and protection. For Patricia, this object, as well as Mary's advice to listen to her heart, became a symbol of her journey to find acceptance. The ritual with Papa Legba came at a cost. As mentioned in Patricia's first letter, summoning spirits requires prices, which are sinful souls for cleansing. That's why Patricia went to the manor, seeking these sinners, referring the manor as a hunting ground. But if we look deeper, her desire wasn't just about cleansing souls. It was about acceptance. Patricia wanted to accept her own identity, and, more importantly, for others to accept her for who she truly is. This journey of self-discovery and acceptance is explored further in Patricia's third letter, where the events at the manor reveal the true depth of her struggles. At first glance, José's backstory seems straightforward. He was the first officer on his father's ship and a skilled sailor who served the British Royal Navy. His duties included escorting treasure ships and fighting in battles to protect the British Empire. One day, José's father was tasked with escorting valuable antiques. Among them is a peculiar Chinese parasol or umbrella. José unfortunately missed that voyage because he was too drunk to board the ship. He waited at the port for his father's return, but the ship never came back. The British authorities assumed that José's father, Joaquin, had fled with the treasure. As a result, they stripped José of his family's wealth and titles. Jose learned that the umbrella from the lost ship had surfaced at a place called Olitas Manor. Determined to restore his family's honor and uncover the truth, Jose headed to the manor. At first, this version of events seems simple enough. But after piecing together more details from clues and insights shared by a lore expert, Siren Jose, it's clear that Jose's story is much darker and more tragic than it seems. Let's dive into it. Despite his Spanish origins, Jose's father, Joaquin, somehow ended up serving in the British Royal Navy. Likely driven by a desire for wealth and glory, Joaquin left Spain for Britain and joined the Navy, where he quickly gained a reputation for bravery and determination. From Jose's deduction clues, it's clear Joaquin was willing to take dangerous risks to secure his success. For example, in one mission, he reportedly navigated through 2 months of rough seas, lost most of his crew, fought off pirates, and delivered his cargo safely back to Britain. This earned him recognition and favor from the British monarchy. However, a later clue revealed a shocking twist. There were no storms or pirates. Instead, Joaquin fabricated the story to make himself look good, while the truth is more sinister than the story itself. Hints in Jose's deduction clues suggest the Badens may not have been heroes at all. Instead, they were pirates themselves. It's possible that Joaquin and his crew attacked and looted Olitas Manor during their voyage. Supporting this theory are visual clues from the Season 18 Essence 3, which depict a figure resembling Jose raiding a manor. Before continuing again, I want to emphasize that what follows in this explanation is a theory with supporting details. Still, here's how the events might have unfolded. Joaquin's decided to pick a dangerous shipping route to arrive early, but the ship ran into trouble, lost most of its crew, and went ashore near Lakeside Village, stranding the crew. The staff from Olitas Manor helped repair the ship, but during this time, Joaquin was persuaded by someone, possibly Orpheus's parents, to join in looting the manor. Joaquin, having the cargo lost because of the trouble he faced at the sea, needed something to present to the queen, and so he agreed, leading his crew to raid the manor, kill its residents, and steal its treasures. Returning to Britain with these stolen goods, Joaquin presented them as legitimate spoils to the crown, earning praise and a royal title. However, news eventually leaked that the treasures came from Olitas Manor. The queen, unwilling to admit her mistake in rewarding Joaquin, covered up the incident and reassigned the Badens to secret pirate missions. While Joaquin seemed unfazed by their crimes, Jose was consumed by guilt. He couldn't sleep, plagued by nightmares and panic attacks. To cope, he turned to alcohol, where he crossed paths with Sam Bourbon, a figure with ties to the manor. Sam may have learned about Jose's troubled past during this time. Aside of alcohol, Jose also learned hypnotism, possibly to hypnotize himself to cope up with the tragedy. Joaquin, meanwhile, dismissed Jose's guilt, insisting his son didn't need to be a good man, just someone who followed orders. Furious, Jose rebelled, repeatedly trying to correct their sailing routes to revisit the site of their crimes, perhaps hoping to force his father to confront the truth. Years later, Joaquin struck a deal with an Australian named Wilhelm Lamb. Sam Bourbon, who had become a staff member at Olitas Manor, sponsored this agreement. The deal required Joaquin to sail from Britain to Australia, collect goods, and sell them in the Mediterranean, with the profits going to Wilhelm. To ensure that he wouldn't flee with the goods, Joaquin offered several items as collateral, one of which was an antique Chinese umbrella, provided by Sam Bourbon. On the day of the voyage, Jose was suffering from a hangover and refused to join the crew. Another officer took his place, and the ship set sail. However, the ship and Joaquin mysteriously disappeared. When news reached the Queen, She was furious. The monarch, already aware of Joaquin's shady history, including the plundering of Elita's manor, assumed Joaquin had once again betrayed her trust by absconding with the cargo. Left with no other option, the queen stripped Jose of his family's titles and privileges, as he was the only Baden left to bear responsibility for the dishonor. While this punishment seemed harsh, it may have brought Jose some relief. The loss of his titles lightened the burden of guilt he carried for his father's past deeds. However, Jose still longed for answers about his father. He didn't want to lose Joaquin entirely, but hoped his father would return someday to atone for his actions. Later, Jose received shocking information. The unique antique umbrella, presumed lost with his father's ship, had appeared at the newly renovated Oletis Manor. This revelation reignited his determination. Jose wasn't just seeking his father's whereabouts or the truth behind the disappearance. He also wanted to restore the Baden name, not by regaining their titles, but by making their family morally upright again. With these goals in mind, he set off for Elita's manor, ready to confront his past. Edgar Valden was born into a noble European family with a notable social status. As the only son of the Valden lineage, Edgar was surrounded by privilege and constant praise. This constant adoration made Edgar accustomed to a comfortable life, as hinted in his first deduction quest, where it stated that destiny gave him the perfect start. From a young age, Edgar showed a deep passion for art, especially painting. He believed life was beautiful and wanted to preserve that beauty on canvas. Given his family's influence, people naturally praised his work, further fueling his confidence in his artistic abilities. Edgar also had a younger sister, Ella, whom he loved dearly. Unfortunately, tragedy struck when Ella fell ill at the age of 5 and passed away a year later. However, her death wasn't solely due to her illness. According to Edgar's second letter, their father had promised to play a game with Ella on a particular day, but chose to celebrate Edgar's birthday. Ella had waited for her father in the painting room, only to die from heat stroke or suffocation. This devastating event created a rift between Edgar and his father. Losing Ella, followed by the earlier loss of his mother, left Edgar emotionally scarred. He poured all his focus into painting, but his inspiration waned. How could he paint the beauty of life when his own felt so devoid of it? In time, Edgar was introduced to a private art tutor named Mr. Sarai, who seemed to understand his love for art and reignited his passion. Edgar's life took a turn for the better. That is, until his 10th birthday, 2 years after Ella's death. On that day, Edgar discovered a letter tucked inside a book. Its anonymous sender revealed a painful truth. Sarai didn't truly care about art or Edgar's work. He, like others who praised him, was only using Edgar and his family's status and wealth for personal gain. The revelation shattered Edgar's trust and crushed his creative spirit. The world that once celebrated his art now felt hollow and deceitful. Edgar began to despise the very paintings he once cherished and even considered burning them. He became convinced that no one could truly understand art and that only he could see its true meaning. Everyone else's praise, he believed, was empty and insincere. Things took a darker turn when Sarai went missing. Edgar's deduction quests hint that he killed his tutor with a letter opener. While the exact motive remains unclear, one theory suggests Sarai was copying Edgar's artwork for profit. This idea draws parallels to Gian Giacomo Caprotti, better known as Salai. Salai was a pupil of a famous painter, Leonardo da Vinci. This connection is particularly intriguing because Edgar's skin in the game is inspired by da Vinci. Salai was known to have copied Leonardo da Vinci's work. After losing his inspiration and being consumed by bitterness, Edgar eventually made his way to Elitist Manor. On the surface, it seemed his goal was to find new inspiration for his art. However, if we look deeper, it's possible he was searching for something more profound, a chance to rediscover the beauty in life itself. After all, Edgar's paintings were his way of preserving the beauty he saw in the world. Perhaps, in coming to the manor, he hoped to find a new life he could once again see as beautiful. Wu Chang, or Xie Bian, and Fan Wujiu are hunters in the game, depicted as deities wielding an umbrella to chase survivors. However, in the lore, the umbrella itself is the true entity, believed to house the souls of both people. Here's a condensed version of their backstory, tied specifically to the game's context. In 1731, two men in China, Xie Bian and Fan Wujiu, made a pact to become sworn brothers. This practice, common in Chinese tradition, symbolized a deep bond between individuals who shared similar values, akin to a best friend's forever commitment. One day, a governor's son caused chaos in a tavern. Out of a sense of justice, Bian and Wujiu intervened, resulting in the governor's son being injured. The corrupt officials filed charges, and the case was hurriedly pushed to trial. The judge, under pressure to resolve the matter within 10 days, decided only one of them would take the blame. Both men, determined to protect the other, claimed responsibility. To settle the dispute, the judge proposed a challenge: apprehend a fugitive. The one who succeeded would have their confession accepted. Bian captured the fugitive and claimed he was solely responsible for injuring the governor's son, allowing Wujiu to go free. Before the trial, Wujiu requested to meet Bian at Nantai Bridge to discuss something. When they met, it began to rain heavily. Seeking shelter, Wujiu stayed under the bridge while Bian left to retrieve an umbrella. But as Wujiu waited, the rain intensified, causing the water to rise rapidly. Loyal to his promise, Wujiu stayed, ultimately drowning before Bian could return. The case was resolved, with Wujiu posthumously declared guilty, sparing him from punishment. However, both their souls were said to be trapped within the umbrella Bian carried that fateful day. Over the centuries, the mysterious umbrella changed hands numerous times, with rumors of its unusual properties. It was said to generate magnetic fields at certain humidity levels, attributed to long-term exposure to a unique ecological environment. Eventually, this cursed artifact found its way to Elitist Manor, where it became tied to the manor's dark secrets. This is why Wu Chang isn't just two hunters wielding an umbrella. They are the umbrella, their souls bound together for eternity.